that you saw on the scene that had to duck away because what he thought was toxic fumes. I'm sure it was. He said 6 people were on the plane that took off from Northeast Philadelphia Airport. Sources tell Steve that there were 2 doctors, 2 pilots, 1 patient, and 1 family member. No update yet on the victims on the ground. So that's what we know. 6 people aboard. I don't know if you had a chance to see the actual explosion itself because the Ring doorbell camera was let out. But what could you tell us from the explosion in midair? It doesn't seem to be a dissension. It seemed to be an explosion.
It really does. It seems like it's something catastrophic occurred in flight and it came down, whether that was a wing separating. But airplanes, even when they're in a power failure, have the ability to glide. Lift created air moving over the wing. An airplane can descend at a normal rate, relatively speaking, even with an engine failure. What looked like we just saw on the Ring doorbell cam was not that. It was a catastrophic failure of some kind.
So Dawn, in your when you were serving as a Air Force colonel, I know you're used to explosive situations. We're looking at that Ring doorbell camera now from a viewer. What are your thoughts from what you've seen? Have you seen anything like this before? Does it remind you of anything that you might have interacted with?
I'll tell you what, Brian, this is kind of personal to me. I actually grew up a couple blocks from where this happened. I used to go to the Roosevelt Mall all the time. So this is wild. It's not been a good couple days for aviation. So my heart goes out to the 6 souls on board who, as you said, are no longer with us. My heart goes out to the 67 folks that perished, in the last couple of days in the D.C. area. Yeah, some work needs to be done.
So when you see that footage that happened in midair, you as a pilot, before we talk about what you know about the area, we're going to the mall that looks like it was part of the debris field, so it was hit. What do you see when you see that explosion in midair?
Well, just to be clear, I'm actually not a pilot. I flew a desk when I was in the Air Force. I am a licensed uncrewed aircraft pilot. So I'm gonna punt that one over to Brandt, who is actually an Army helicopter pilot, to handle that one.
No, Brian.
Yeah, my problem. You're right. Go ahead.
Oh, no, Brian, I was just going to say, an explosion like this is really significant. It actually leads me to think that it was a larger aircraft. Just when you see flames of this nature, this is not some little Cessna. And especially if it's traveling, with medical patients on board, probably a jet of some kind. Obviously, we need to learn a lot more details about this airplane and what went into it, obviously what caused it. But there are significant standards that are put on these aircraft, airworthiness standards, that we have to understand what went wrong and reassure, frankly, the American people that air travel is still safe. And you can see why some would question that after the last couple of days.
So you got 2 doctors, 2 pilots, 1 patient. Obviously, there was some type of medical situation going. You don't know if it was at one of those flights. A lot of times, pilots dedicate their time and energy to help people in distress, to get them to specialized hospitals. I got to ask you, Dawn, could you tell me what the area is like on the ground and the fact that 6 people we know, according to Fox 29, have lost their lives? We know the debris field is large. We know the mall's been hit. Tell me what it is like on the ground on a sunny day. What is it? How dense, how close are the houses, how dense are the properties?
Yeah, it's a very dense area. I mean, I heard one of your colleagues mention row houses for sure. There's several schools in the area, walkable. The mall itself is pretty large, open air mall, as was referenced. So this is a pretty significant area. You also talked about Roosevelt Boulevard. I mean, this is a highly trafficked roadway. So if that's what we're talking about here, there would be, I would assume, a lot of people in that area. And I also heard houses were on fire. So yeah, I would think there'd be some, as you said, hundreds of firefighters in the area. That kind of response just tells you right there, there's going to be significant things happening on the ground.
And you know what, Brandt? People are worried about traveling right now, and they're thinking to themselves, should we really be concerned?
I know, Brian. That's certainly something that I was hoping the events we saw in D.C. be lessons learned from it, and we can move on. And now this coming right on its heels, it could spook the American people. And I think that's going to be really incumbent upon newly confirmed Secretary Duffy and the President to reassure the American people that it's still safe to travel, and what steps are going to be taken. What are the action plans that we can learn from these incidents to ensure they don't happen again, that the military is able to train safely, that American people can travel, take commercial flights without fear. People can move and move about the country as they need to for their jobs. I think that's really is where,
Right.
President Trump is in office now. We need leadership at a moment like this to reassure the American people.